Hi guys, I'm gonna make a long view video about how to measure thickness of glass and the glass itself for replacement double glazed windows and doors. You can see here I got water inside of this unit here, so it's condensing. All this it's actually inside, and I also got a little bit here. Don't know if it can be seen, just a little bit there now showing, but sometimes shows more, sometimes less. So obviously needs new double glaze paints. So there are a few different ways of measuring glass for the size and the thickness. So I'm going to demonstrate them, and it all depends on the way how window or door is being set, how old it is, and so on. You got mainly two different types of windows. The newer windows, they are internally beaded, like this one is, but they don't have compression gaskets. This window is all door, and these windows are old and they have compression gaskets. So these gaskets here are compression gaskets. They need to be removed first before removing the bead. So in order to measure the glass, we got two different measurements that we need to take. One is thickness of the glass overall, and one is height and width, or length and width. So one of the ways to measure the thickness of the glass would be to take the overall thickness of the door or window. You might want to have some straight edge or something that you can run past, and then you can take a measurement. So here I'm having 65 millimeters overall, and then you can measure the distance from the glass from one side of the frame and deduct it. So basically from the glass to the frame. So I got 24 millimeters. So far I got 65 and I got 24 from this end here. So let's write that down. So we got 65 overall minus 24, and then we need to measure on the other side as well. What's the distance? And we have 13 millimeters. Oops, is it 13? No, sorry, it's not 30. Tape was hitting the rubber gasket. So it is 17 millimeters. So then deduct another 17 millimeters there. So once we deduct that, we will get 24 millimeters is what is left. So basically we have a profile of the door that is like that. The glass sits in here, and then there's a beading on the inside. I don't know if you can see that clearly. We measured overall 65. That there was 24 millimeters, and that there was 17 millimeters. So that's 17. Whoops. That's 24. So rest the glass itself then is 24 millimeters. Now that sounds right, because double glazed units they have usually 4mm glass, then they have a spacer, then they'll have another 4mm glass sealed with a butyl sealant. Now overall on the glass can be usually is something like either 16mm for very thin ones, 20mm, 24, 28, and sometimes 32mm as well. You might find that, but most common ones are 24, 28mm. If you find 26 or 22, that means you might have one of the panes laminated as 6mm or 6.3mm laminated glass. So these are most common ones. So my one is 24mm. So that's one of the ways of finding the thickness of the glass. And to be honest with you, that is my preferred method of measuring glass thickness. Now the second way is with a measuring gauge. I used to have the plastic one that it was quite bendy, so I didn't like to use it, so I decided to treat myself with a new one, and I'm actually quite pleased with it. Surprised. It's made out of aluminium. It's made by Glass Expert. It's a glass thickness measuring gauge. So it comes in a nice box, nicely padded, and it has got this gauge. It's made out of aluminium, and what you do is you slide the measuring rule out, and when it touches this end here, it should show you 0 as it is. And then what you do, you literally go over the frame, rest that side on the glass, and then bring the other part of the ruler back to the glass. And you want to make sure it's nice and square and close to the frame. You don't want to go further towards the middle of the glass. Close to the frame, and I can read it here. I don't know if you can be seen on the camera. I can see it. It's 24mm exactly, which is exactly what I measured on the other side. Now on a door like this, it's nice and easy to measure both sides with either chippy square or tape measure or whatever, by deducting from the frame. But if you're on the 3rd floor and you're measuring on a fan window that opens outside, you can't really go outside and measure the distance from the glass nice and safely and outside, so this really comes handy then. So I established now 2 ways that my glass is 24mm. Now the 3rd way would be my least preferred method, and that would be to take the glass out of the frame and measure it. Now, as I said earlier, depending on what sort of uPVC door or window you have, the different ways of taking the glass out. Very first ones, frames that will have removable beading on outside, we double-side the tape on inside as a gasket, then you need to cut the tape. So then again, depends on the location, if it's high up or not. Them sort of windows are really difficult to do if they're high up, because you would need 2 people, one inside, one outside, on the ladder, uncomfortable, and the glass comes outwards as well. On more modern ones with a beading on inside, glass comes inwards, so if you're up on height, you don't need someone on outside, unless you have compression gaskets, like here. So I'm going to show you in a minute how to take the beads with compression gaskets as well. Taking the beads out on more modern windows, I have another video that is showing that, so I'll put link to it in description as well. Now before I commence taking the glass out, I'm going to show how to measure width and the length of the glass without taking it out. As we got beading here on the inside, you can see the joint between bead and the frame is there, and it's here on this side there. So I'm going to measure between them 2 points, so right there and here, and I got 559 millimeters. 559 millimeters, just, well, it's about 20, oops, where's the tape? 559, it's 22 inches, but I don't like to measure glass in inches, so it's in millimeters. 559. And that would be tight measurement within the frame. Again, depending on the frame profile, might differ a little bit, but most frames that point is tight measurement to the frame. And I would like to have 6 millimeters on either side, or all the way around the glass as a margin gap. So I got 5, 5, 9, and then 6 millimeters on both sides. That will be 12 millimeters. So that will be 7 for 547 millimeters would be my width of the glass to order. And I have to do same thing with the length. Then again on the top, right in that joint, and I got measurement here 960. So take away 12 millimeters, that's 948. 948 millimeters, that's my length, and that's the width. So I got my thickness 24. So when I'm ordering glass, I need 24 millimeters thick, and needs to be 547, always write width first, and then 948 is the height. The reason why I'm saying writing width and height is if you got a pattern glass of any sort, on that way the pattern will be orientated correct way. So that's measurement for my door pane for replacement. I'll have to do same thing for my little window, and then I can place an order. Now, as I said, this door has got wedge gaskets on outside. It's an older style door with a bead on inside, and first thing to remove the glass, we need to remove wedge gasket. Depending on age and quality of the rubber, they will come out easy or not so easy. You can use a screwdriver or a scraper, try to get underneath that gasket and trying to pry it up. Sometimes it can be hard. I have to try to see what corner will go out easier. Right, I think I got one end out. This is quite big gasket. They can be reused. That's what it looks like. The more modern ones looking slightly different. They're looking more like a wedge. This one's got more of the fins, and they can be replaced. The modern ones coming in something like 4 or 5 different sizes. Just need to get correct size, and then you can replace with new ones in case if your old ones. Okay, now once the gaskets are removed, I can push the glass from inside towards out, and that will release the pressure from the beads inside. The easiest way is always to try from the corner, and don't mix the beads, especially in all the windows, because they will be cut individually and they might differ. As you can see, the previous fitter marked up here top right on this bead. If they're not marked, please mark them. Corner out, and it comes out. So this one has got top right, but I know this one is top right. He marked up wrongly. This one's supposed to be top left, the first one, so I'm gonna... The previous fitter made a little mistake because he marked up both of them as top right. But I'll keep this one as top right, and this one will be top L for left. Then I'll remove the bottom bead. And then top bead. Now we got glass exposed. It's been packed incorrectly. That's why it's blown. Right, let's get this out. Right, heel and toe, in my other video, you might remember if you've seen it. If not, please have a look. It's the way how glass needs to be packed in the doors or windows that are side hinged. So we got a door that is side hinged here. Let me just zoom out. So you got a door that is side hinged on the right hand side, which means that's the most stable part of the frame of the door. The glass needs to be supported in the bottom of the hinge side and opposite diagonal corner on the top to keep the frame up where it's supposed to be. The way they done it opposite. They braced it between the lock side on the bottom and the top on the hinge side. It's absolute no-no. Absolute no-no. So it really needs to be braced from the bottom of the hinge side and top on the lock side. Now, the reason why it has failed, as you can see on the bottom, let me just get my scraper. You can see there is a gap between the glass and the frame because the packers are there. And as we come to this other side here, there is no gap there. There's barely actually any gap. So any time when it rains hard, water will come through the bottom corner there between two compression gaskets, will come into the frame, will sit a little bit in there, and it will keep bottom of this glass wet, and that's why the seal on the glass will break. So that was the reason why this glass pane has failed. It was improper installation. They didn't brace the glass properly, so it really needs to be braced. Bottom, hinge side, lock, top. That's a heel and toe, as they call it. So now, once the glass is exposed, I can do different measurement and I can measure. If I'm going to check the measurement of the thickness of the glass, I would have to pull the glass out and measure it. So to do that, you need to just push the glass outwards and glass is out. I'll do that so I can actually correctly pack it with a heel and toe. So now measuring the glass with a tape measure, it is 24 millimeters, which means it's 4 millimeter glass, 16 millimeter bead or trim inside, then another 4 millimeter glass. And this is the proof that water does get into the frames. See that green and stuff? That's because it comes to the corners of the gaskets through edges. Gaskets are there to seal from draft and to seal, to make nice soft padding for the glass. It's not to stop water to come in. Water is designed to come in. That's why we got these drain holes here that needs to be kept clear. And they will lead the water through the frame all the way down to the bottom. So they need to be not obstructed. So now I have confirmed on a third way thickness of my glass, 24 millimeter. Now I'm going to confirm the width and length of the glass. I had 547 millimeter calculated, and now I'm measuring this glass is 549, which is 2 millimeters bigger than what I calculated, which is not a problem because there is plenty of margin there to use smaller glass. And the length is 953 and I calculated 948. And to be honest with you, seeing how this glass fits in here tight to the edges, I would rather prefer slightly smaller glass, so I will go with my originally estimated size. So now I need to refit this until I wait for the new glass. So I'm going to take these bridging packers out for a moment. And right, what I got here is these existing packers. I'll just set this glass in with the existing packers. So that one there, and that one. Okay, one there. To check door for closing gently. Yes. Good. Okay, so now glass is packed. Put the beads back in. Again, different frames, different beads. These ones got a hook on the back that needs to be hooked in first, and then the front needs to be clipped down. Most of them are like that. There we go. We got some on the right hand side. And then one on the left hand side. Okay, so the glass is back in, the beads are back in. Now I can close the door and put compression gaskets back in. So glass needs to be pushed inwards, fully and tight towards the beads. Then we take our compression gaskets and need to fit them in. Sometimes you can use your fingers, sometimes you need a tool, as say a piece of button or a little wooden wedge or something, just to force easier the wedge gasket in. This one is actually going easy with fingers. Whilst we're here talking about compression gaskets, these are some other examples of compression gaskets or wedge gaskets. This is more modern one. You can see the profile of that. It's more of the wedge rather than one before there, and this is one of the other ones. This is quite small compression gasket. As I said, they're coming in different sizes and you can get replacement ones easy. So to conclude, guys, that's basically it. I covered 3 different ways of measuring thickness of the glass. One is with like basic tools, straight edges, level, or tri-square, using then either tri-square to measure or tape. So that's one way. The other way is with glass thickness measuring gauge, and the third way is to pop the glass out and physically measure it. And then also I covered up here how to remove the glass from internally beaded frames with compression gaskets on outside. Sometimes you might find that there is a frame with outside or externally beaded with internal compression gasket, and most modern ones are internally beaded without compression gaskets. They're actually the easiest ones to do. I hope this video helped you, and please subscribe for more, or put down in comments if you would like to see something different, something else, and so on. Thank you guys, all the best.